All right, everyone. Thank you for watching today's webcast. Today, we're speaking with Daniel Kohler. He's with Syndio, and we're going to be talking about the simple truth surrounding pay equity. So, Dan, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be here today.
You bet, Brian.
Absolutely. So before we get into the content, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, Syndio is a mission-driven company, obviously being focused on pay equity. In my career, that's the run through. You know, out of college, I got involved with AmeriCorps as a service volunteer and managed that program after that, and did a lot of conservation work before then, getting into technology. And I was living in Seattle at the time, and it's obviously a technology hub, and I was really drawn to starting to work on problems I cared about and finding technology solutions that could fast forward solutions to those problems. So I initially got involved with an organization focused on helping companies with compensation. And through that, started to see more and more that teams within the world of HR, while they care deeply about paying their employees fairly, whether that be the fair market rate or whether that be by gender, race, or any protected class, they didn't oftentimes have sufficient tools to access the data they needed to act on that. And so that's what Syndio does, which is why I joined a handful of months ago, and I'm so excited about the work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm glad we connected in the ChangeNerd community. Like, pay equity is something that's important to me and a lot of others. So this is a great conversation to have. So how do we get here? When you think about the evolution of pay equity, right now it's getting what I think it's getting a lot of attention today in the news and different articles. But like, how do we even get here? Can you talk to us about the background of that?
In my sense, there's two core drivers to where we've landed today in terms of the raised consciousness about pay equity. One is cultural. They probably run together as well, but one is cultural, right? Like, when I started my career, I don't recall talking to my colleagues or friends necessarily about what I got paid. There was still some taboos around that 20 years ago, right? But that's all changed pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
Folks share that information with each other. It's sort of not a big deal. People just talk about it, right? And so that level of transparency people have with each other, let alone the other piece is the technology, right? So people are just sort of more free about their life and things like their pay online, and they have access to information online. There's places like Glassdoor you can go, and websites where you can find information about companies, their reputations, how they pay their employees or treat them broadly. And it's just a much different conversation for those reasons than it used to be, let's say 20 years ago. And obviously there's a conversation, about fairness in our society. And folks that are raising their hand to say, what are the inequities that are happening in America or around the world? And we know there's a pay gap. And so the question is, how do you go about trying to solve that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in speaking with different companies, once the executives make a decision, or the board makes a decision and says, okay, well, we're gonna invest the time and energy into making sure that we're practicing pay equity. What's the new way of working? What's that shift from old school to what they have to do now?
I think the trend sort of looks like this. As more scrutiny has come into this area, and the first wave of some of the attention around it, we saw in the form of litigation, lawsuits. Someone raising their hand via a lawsuit to say, I'm pretty sure I'm not paid as my colleagues are being paid. And so that's kind of the first wave, which has led companies over the last 5-10 years. There's more attorney focus and lawyer focused on risk mitigation. And so many companies have begun a process where once a year, they take their data that they have in a system like Workday or their system of record, and they perform a regression analysis to try to compare similarly situated employees to identify, are there pay gaps? Yeah. So for instance, my boss comes out of Rob Porcarelli comes out of Starbucks, and he led that work for almost a decade, where it was important, and they looked at that information. If they found and diagnosed problems, they'd try to solve that with some remediation dollars to make that equitable. Yeah. So that was kind of wave one, is risk mitigation around this. But as we were talking about with the cultural trend and that shift that's happening, it's not just about risk mitigation. It's not just merely, hey, could someone plausibly accuse us of illegality?
Yeah.
It's actually, well, employees want to be employed at a company that they are confident cares about this and is focused on this and does pay fairly. And so we've seen a shift where you've got to have more engagement, like you said, at a board and CEO level and CHRO level, but then into the HR team, because those are the folks that are really running, you know, the pay policies and helping to craft those and understand, are they actually working in the field like we've designed them to be? And so that involvement through HR, total rewards, the compensation teams, along with still the folks that are the attorneys on the risk mitigation side, you know, that's sort of where we're going and where our clients are focused in terms of how they're embracing this.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And then, you know, what are some of the other benefits associated with moving to a more sustainable pay equity model?
Well, I think if you talk to our clients, Nordstrom comes to mind as an example, and the kind of things that they talk about in terms of how they're viewing this is, again, the risk mitigation piece doesn't, on the one hand, go away. There's
Yeah.
more and more regulation, state by state, in terms of pay fairness. So that's clearly still there. But I think what they perceive is that that leading companies have an opportunity here, right? It's the other side of the coin. If you can publicly and proudly, you know, describe that you're focused on this and that you care about it and you study it closely, I think there's a lot of folks out there that are attracted to working for an employer that pays fairly. I mean, it sounds so simple.
Yeah, it does.
Almost ridiculous to say such a thing, right?
Yeah.
And normally that has, you know, meant, you know, pay fair market rate. And that's still really important, obviously, too. And that doesn't go away to recruit and retain top talent. But it's, I think, fundamental to how most people think these days as an employee is they want to be a place that just treats employees fairly. And this is a core component of that, clearly.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Daniel, thank you for you know, discussing the importance and simple truth surrounding pay equity. How can people in the community find you?
Oh, it's actually, I'm at Syndio. So let me, if I could, just
Yeah.
hold up.
Yeah. Awesome.
so people can find it. Our website, syndio.io.
Yep.
And then obviously the email there. So
Yeah.
folks should definitely feel free to reach out. Can you tell I used to do conservation work and political campaign work? I've got my banner ready.
I can tell. That's awesome.
I figured you might ask. And I'll also say this. I mean, not everybody probably who's interested in this topic is necessarily someone who's, you know, a prospective client with our work, you know, and that's fine. There may be folks that are interested academically. In fact, I'm talking with some folks out at a college in California tomorrow that's doing some research into this issue. And, you know, talking to folks that are in the change management world that are trying to think about if they have a role to play, or let's say in a world of diversity and inclusion, which I think is core to this work as well. So I'm happy to connect with folks that are interested in this work broadly or have a specific type of interest, as I just described there.
Absolutely, man. Listen, thank you for taking your time. I really appreciate it, and I'll be sure to post your information on LinkedIn as we try to.
All right, that sounds great, Brian.
All right, thank you so much.